Okay, I'm back with another video. We're going to flip through some more items from my collection of ephemera. And I want to focus today on a publisher, Boneyard Press, a rather controversial publisher at the time that they were active. Hart D. Fisher is the mastermind behind Boneyard Press. And at the time of recording this video, I did see that online he announced that he is getting the band back together, so to speak, and restarting Boneyard Press. I'm not sure where that is at right now, but I figured it'd be as good a time as any to go over some of my Boneyard Press books, actually all of my Boneyard Press books. So the reason I'm so into this company and, what they put out there and the ethics behind it, even though I think some of the material is deplorable, for lack of a better word, some really dumb homophobic humor, just some gore for the sake of gore. There's a lot of shit in there that I just think is, shock value nonsense that I don't really hold in any high regard. So that said, as a publishing house in general, I really felt like Hart and Boneyard Press were fighting for artists and fighting for, having an original voice during a time where we saw Image Comics explode and a lot of creators were cashing in, and there was this whole speculator market, and, everybody's buying up 100 copies of, Doucheman #1 so they can resell them in a decade because they're going to just inflate and there's going to be they're going to skyrocket in value. That didn't happen, Obviously, there are some comics that are going to be worth a lot of money, but the mid-90s was full of a bunch of bullshit, and Hart spoke directly to that many times throughout his work, his editorials, the comics he wrote, his appearances, his antics at different conventions. He was barred from some conventions. And honestly, I love that fuck you attitude. I feel really strongly about people who are willing to get in the fray like that, especially, because he was making books that were, that there was notoriety. And I do think that he sometimes used the shock value of what he was publishing to push his message of, hey, like, these assholes are ruining the comic industry. They're ruining independent comics. They're ruining distribution. And the comics industry did face a sort of collapse, and I don't think it's ever fully recovered from that weird mid-90s speculator boom. And so this isn't the video to talk about all that, but, I really felt like he was not the only voice speaking out against that stuff. I mean, obviously, there's many other people, but I also do like filth. And there is a lot of filth in these books. And so, not safe for work, but let's get into my Boneyard Press collection. This will be part 1 of a series. This first one here is a book called Dead Man Walking. Boneyard Press, it says here, too tough for color and mature readers. This was $2.75, and this was printed back in July of 1992. This is the oldest Boneyard Press book that I own. I do think there were a few more before this. Here you see in the upcoming releases, we had Tracy Lord's #1, Devil's Bite #2, so I don't have Devil's Bite #1. I also don't have the first issues of Burnt Cane or Dead Man Walking, or The Adventures of Young Jeffrey Dahmer, which was one of the more controversial books, maybe the most controversial book that Boneyard Press published. Also, Rectum Erectum, Halloween Fun #1. I'm not sure if that's different. I believe that Rectum Erectum is the very first Boneyard Press title to be published officially. I might be wrong about that, but that's my understanding. The other thing is that, I have reached out to a lot of these artists and writers. Some of them got back to me, some of them didn't. I for a while was trying to write this sort of this piece that was like a history of Boneyard Press and kind of talking about my thoughts about the publisher. And I still might release that, but I didn't really get the cooperation I was hoping from some individuals. And so I didn't feel like I was really telling a story worth telling if I couldn't get more direct, firsthand accounts from certain people who were there at the time. I would just be going like, Boneyard Press is cool. I wanted to go deeper into that. I don't really love when internet nerds just talk about the thing they like so much as I like when the internet allows us intimate access to personalities that otherwise, we wouldn't have access to. Maybe people who were interviewed in trade magazines or other zines at the time. Like, real quick, I do have this prototype issue of Dark Muse, which has a Joe Monks interview, and although Joe and Hart, they don't get along anymore, is my understanding. At least, from what I've seen online. But Joe was someone who put out some work early on with Boneyard and also did a lot of really cool work in horror comics in the early and mid 90s. And, it's cool to see an interview with him in this sort of thing. And we'll get to that one day. But moving on. So here we have writer Bill Yukich. Guy Burwell did the artists. He's the artist and the cover artist. Brian Brinkerhoff was the letterer. And of course, the editor-publisher is one Mr. Hart D. Fisher. So here we have our protagonist trying to wake up. We got a nice little overhead view. Of course, he's got a busty lass here in his bed. My fucking sinuses were baked. I could feel blood seeping out of the cracks. And we learn our protagonist's name is Vinny. And, they're getting coked up and stuff. She's dressed like some sort of crazy cowgirl. And I do like this black and white work. I mean, this isn't the most incredible work. And honestly, some of the people who I reached out to about Boneyard Press were like, that's not my greatest work. Not that they weren't proud of things they did, but some of this stuff here was people who were very young and very inexperienced, and they just, it was a bit of a stepping stone for them at times. And so it's not always technically the most insane, impressive work, but I feel like it has character. Like, even these shots of this car, I love this stuff. I think this looks so fucking cool. It's, it might not be, again, the most technical or technically proficient work ever in some of these books, but you can't deny that it's got a vibe, and that's something that I think a lot of books are missing when I go to read modern comics, or even a lot of stuff that was contemporaries to this in 92. And so we're going on here. We're learning more about Vinny and his activities here. And this is just a little flip through. At any point you can pause the video and you could read these pages for yourself and get the full story. I'm not here to try to do a whole dramatic reading of these books. I just want to flip through and show the art. Because that's really, that's what I do with a comic when I first get it. I just flip through and look at the pictures. I do read comics. But that's, my second interaction with them, and if my first flip through, if I don't feel something from the art, I don't usually pick it up for that second interaction. I really love how this looks. Just all the different textures throughout here. Each panel has a different textural thing going on in the backgrounds, which I think is really interesting and fun. And that to me feels like a young cartoonist. I feel like they're trying all sorts of tricks. Even the border panels, you can see some of them are more intricate than others. I love it. I also love their use of just full-on black and white, the shadow silhouette work here. So we got a little fight scene. Someone catches one to the dome right there. Nice blood splatter. Love how this close-up looks right here. This is really dope. He's fighting for his life. Is Vinny going to make it? Vinny is getting his shit kicked in. Oh, and Vinny loses an eyeball. That's rough. That's rough for our protagonist, Vinny, here. And he goes out the window. Love the glass breaking here. And he falls right onto a pool party. Felt the numbness waiting, and then the chlorine kicked in. So he got chlorine in his open wounds. And of course, he, seeks his revenge almost immediately. I like this drink, fuck, die shirt. That's a mantra I could live by, honestly. Not to say I do, but I could see myself getting down with that. Actually, I like all these background characters. These are really interesting folks. Is that Jordy right there? It's a little bit of copyright infringement happening. That's okay. Who fucking cares? And again, I skipped ahead. More violence as Vinny does make his escape. Really fun lettering. I like the lettering all throughout. It's all right. It's not the greatest. Like, this lettering isn't. It's nothing incredible, but it does its job very well, and it does fit the vibe. But this stuff is really fun to me. Love this stuff. This looks so cool. And this is also really great. Love this. Love this so much. So here we have the morgue, the back stock of the Boneyard. We got the first 3 issues of Dark Angel. Again, Rectum, The God That Failed, The Jackal, Jeffrey Dahmer, Devil's Bite. I don't have most of these early books, which I wish I could get them. But I do, whenever I see them on my comic shop or on eBay, I do all I can to snatch them up. I would love... I know this will never happen. I'd love a complete run of Boneyard Press just to read it all. I'm not really into just collecting for the sake of it. A lot of books I read and I pass them on to other people. But I'd love to be able to read the entire, run front to back of everything this company published. So here we have a movie. This movie's gonna kick your fucking ass, says Hart D. Fisher. The movie called Spreading the Disease. Fear and Loathing in a Quiet Midwestern Town. Feel the Hate. It's co-directed by Bill, Dead Man Walking Yukich. Act now and receive Roadkill. Make check or money order. $15, $2 postage. VHS format only. So, did this come out? I know Hart did other films. I guess it did come out. They're selling it. That's interesting. I know he has other films that he advertised were, coming, but I think they all did eventually happen. Some of them took a really long time for reasons I'm not going to get into right now, but that is Dead Man Walking, the earliest Boneyard Press book I have. And let's get into another one here in this same video. Why not? This is the first issue of Tears with some H.R. Giger kind of style art here on the cover. Can't blame anybody for trying to rip that. It's a fun style. This is from October 92. It's the first printing here. As published as close to bi-monthly as possible by Boneyard Press. And this is William J. Harms writing with Paul Tisdale as the artist and letterer, which I always love when a book, especially an amateur book, has the same artist letterer. I feel like you see some interesting stuff, even if it's, again, not always the most polished work. Joseph Vargo on the cover and Hart D. Fisher, would you believe it, is the publisher. So one thing I always notice is that, most of the books have the epitaphs here in the front. And comments, suggestions, and death threats can be sent to this P.O. box here, although I wouldn't recommend trying it now. And this is a book where it looks like there's a mix of ink and pencil going on. Not that I'm some sort of expert on mediums, but, and the lettering is honestly, it's messy. It's hard to read. But it has fucking character. I don't mind if I gotta, squint a little harder at a couple lines of text if it's something that feels vital and unique. And obviously, this is some dark shit. And it looks like there's a bit of collage work going on here as well with these backgrounds on this. Like, this reminds me of like a Discharge record or something, some sort of D-beat shit. I love this drawing of these cops. So here we have some sort of depiction of you know, this child growing up, dealing with all sorts of abuse and rejection and oppression here. This person's on trial for their crimes, and he here admits to murder. And this, you know, these faces, I mean, this is like very, it looks like, it's almost got that like American anime kind of vibe to it. It's very amateur. It's very, I shouldn't say amateur, it's very juvenile even. But it's also so fun. It's so detailed. It's so complex. Like, it's the kind of stuff that, you know, I feel like at a certain point in you know, in a career, you know, if you become too skilled doing work that is this detailed and this busy, this full, you know, of depth and all this stuff, it maybe takes too many hours out of your day, and you tend to have stuff that is maybe technically sharper but isn't as fun. So he's freaking out here. He's admitted guilt, as we see in the Springfield Daily News. The cops are holding him down. Hellish visions abound. We see him outside of the courthouse here. Looks like he was jumped and stuffed in a dumpster. Some more of the story. No, Dad, don't hit her. So yeah, this is you know, very dark shit. A lot of the Boneyard Press books have to do with murder and trauma. You see here the woman being smashed over the head with a chair, bleeding everywhere. Yeah, but this is shit that people experience. I've experienced things similar to this. You know, it's intense. See, taking revenge on the abusive father. Sorry, I thought it's an interesting depiction of him right here. I'm really liking these textured backgrounds on this book. So you see he took these people out. He's a murderer. But you're learning why he's a murderer. You can have some sympathy for the guy. I love this FBI logo and this fucking busy-ass wallpaper. I don't know if that's some sort of screen tone. Looks like it is. So we have another little comic here in the back. Again, very juvenile stuff, but it's got soul. Untitled by William J. Harm. Got some, you know, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac looking shit in the back here. The butcher shop. Is that name Tony? Pony Tisdale? It looks like Pony. Or, I'm not sure what that is. Very goofy, very violent, but, again, fun stuff. And again, more fun stuff. I don't know, it's goofy. They got another installment of The Morgue here, showing us more books that are coming up. We're getting into the areas where I do start to have some of these. And again, another ad for Spreading the Disease, available exclusively on VHS. Okay, we'll get into one more book here, which is the second issue of Tears. This book will give you nightmares, says Bob Hall of the Shadow Man. dedicated to Ronald Harms, who died in 1989, the father, presumably, of William J. Harms. And this time they want your death threats. So we're in December of 1992. There must be a divine purpose working through this seer, who may know but will not explain. It is a privilege that Rama's help should be sought. Do not bar his way. Let him go with the sage. So, next issue, Joshua meets Jesus Christ, who tells Joshua what the Holy Mission is really all about. Also, Dr. G discovers the FBI's real reasons for wanting Joshua and blows the whistle. Be here for number 3, Rapture of Sin, in March, or Joshua will come and save your soul in the old-fashioned way with a knife. Now, I do not have Tears number 3, unfortunately. But I'd love to get a copy. So here we see a prison. Joshua. And the thing that's fun about books like this especially is, like, from issue to issue, you'll see improvements in the art. And this is really fun stuff here. The demons in it, you know, presumably in his subconscious here. And the lettering. The lettering is getting a little more varied and interesting. More dark shit. Seeing him pull his father out of the grave. These are really fun panels. Nice use, just like white, you know? Empty space. See him here discussing Joshua. There's a whole twisty-turny kind of like conspiracy kind of thing going on here that I'm not going to try to explain. But it's a little convoluted. But it's a fun story. Again, really liking, you know, the very subtle, you know, not shadow because it's, you know, it's dark, but it's light. You know, these ghostly figures all throughout here, and you know, obviously they figured out this, like, I don't know, like blowing the ink around technique or something and really got off on it. But it's fucking cool. It looks fun. More here with Joshua. A little newscast here on the side, it seems. Like this scientist character here. Maybe he's not a scientist. I just saw the word scientist. Really enjoy this. This is really fun. That's awesome. This whole background here. It's like each panel has so much happening. Even this is fucking sick. There we have a little pinup of Joshua. A rallying cry to the faithful. By the time you see this, it will be a new year. That is, if you see this. Boneyard Press is treading water. We need your help. This is just another cheap sales gimmick. This is survival. You can directly affect the life of this movement. We need you to buy the Boneyard merchandise. We need you to put a gun to your buddy's head and make him buy the t-shirts, the comics, the hats. This is your power. You have to fight for the comics you like. I agree. I agree entirely. The powers that be would love to see guys like us go under so that they can keep the mutant status quo. If you don't put up your economic muscle, then you're bending over for the corporate buttfuck. And again, I completely agree with that sentiment. Boneyard Press is more than just another comic book company. It's a collection of artists with the hunger. Our guys are working for pennies. The creative crews behind Tears are working. Rectum, and the Jackal don't get paid at all. We have a drive to create, to tell a story without some sorry son of a bitch leaning over our shoulder calling the shots. We're not worried about offending minority groups, lawsuits, improper subject matter, or any of that politically correct bullshit. We just do it. Now it's your turn to do it. Your comic book, you are a comic book store, has until the 15th of every month to reserve its orders for books shipping a month later. Reserve your copies now and bug your store to order more copies for the stands. Without a vocal demand, the store owners will not try anything new or different. Tell all your friends about us. Tell strangers about us. Small press companies can't afford massive campaigns. We live for word of mouth. If you can't find our books, then write to us. Our address is in the morgue ad. You see the ads for all the great stuff. Check it out. Boneyard Press fans are a breed apart. They are brothers of the shadow, looking for that special gleam in the eye of the wolf. Well, that's profound. It's time to close the ranks and show your muscle. This isn't a notice of imminent doom or a beggar looking for pittance. This is a call to arms. I think you know what to do. Do it. And here, we have a little article here by Mark Barriers, or Mark Seifert, Class Barriers. And it seems like this is talking about some similar stuff here. You know, the state of comics in the early 90s. So here we have another Boneyard Press ad here. We have Boneyard Press baseball caps, a free speech t-shirt. In 1992, Hart D. Fisher created the biggest controversy in the entire comic industry with Jeffrey Dahmer, an unauthorized biography of a serial killer. In 93, he does it again, Jeffrey Dahmer versus Jesus Christ. Now, I never have loved Danielson's drawings. He's got a style, for sure. It's a unique style. Maybe it's just too ugly for me. And I know it's supposed to be ugly. But my kind of like distaste for it makes me want to read it even more, if that makes sense. I'd like to understand like why I don't like it. Also, these books were banned in Canada, and some of the books were banned in Wisconsin as well. So, hardcore. We have Burnt Cane, Bill the Bull. Bill the Bull is a really cool comic book character. He's basically a bull / man detective cop. And Duncan Rouleau did go on to work on a lot of other stuff, some kid stuff as well. It's interesting to see folks like him get their start. Not necessarily get their start, but to, you know, early on be working with Boneyard. But this is like, I'd say, if you're not into the shock value shit and all like the dark, you know, painful, you know, bullshit, Bill the Bull is something that you might enjoy. It's just like a sort of violent, hard-boiled crime adventure story. Here we have an ad for Razor from London Night Studios. I do think I have some copies of Razor. And also the Lazarus Pits, which looks like some type of erotica. And on the back here, Flickering Flesh, #1, a Dark Angel one-shot by Bill Yukich and John Lucas. Again, brought to us by Boneyard Press. I don't know if I have this one. Actually, would you believe it? I do. But we'll have to get into this in the next video. We'll also be checking out Dahmer's Zombie Squad in the next video, so stay tuned. We'll be going through more of my Boneyard Press collection here. And if you got any Boneyard books you want to get rid of, feel free to hit me up. See ya.